Hi guys, welcome to this mini series all about hip mobility. Yes, we are going to be focusing on a little bit more of hip mobility exercises. So exercises that are going to help to stretch out and work on those areas of the hips. Now, I have created recently another sort of yoga fit session that works around the hips. So if it's not out just yet, double check and go back through and see if that yoga fit session is, or it might be on the next week in the membership. So keep your eyes peeled for that one. So these two will work really well together. Now, you won't need anything, just somewhere that you can be on a mat or a soft surface, and let's get started. Okay, so all of these moves are going to be down on the ground. So bring yourself down, sit yourself onto your bottom, and then they're all going to look a little bit bizarre. And when I first saw them, I was thinking, okay. So we're actually going to bring the feet out to the sides, kind of fairly far out. Bring yourself forwards a little bit. And then what you're going to do is you're going to rock the knees down to the ground from side to side. So you'll probably bring your hands a little bit off the ground, maybe come onto the fingertips, maybe fully lift. And you're just working on getting into the sides of the hips. Now, I've also seen this movement progressed a little bit where people kind of lift up through the hips. So you could even incorporate a little lift as you move from side to side. Let's do that a couple more times on each side. And you might find, like me, you're wiggling further and further down your mat. From here, we are going to go into another kind of bizarre positioning. As you can imagine with these ones, because we're trying to open out the hips, they're always going to look a little bit froggy-like. So the next one that we've got is actually coming down onto the knees here. Knees are wide, and you're going to come onto the sides of the feet. Now, I've kind of found this a little bit hard. I've seen a lot of people have feet really, really flat, but for me, that isn't as accessible. So just working to maybe bring the feet a little closer here into a little froggy position. Now, if the heels are a little bit lifted, don't worry too much. From here, you're just going to do a gentle rock back and forwards, and this really gets into the hips. I can really feel this one. So keep breathing. You might want to adjust the hands a little bit. And you could even get a bit more of a circular movement going round here at the hips. It's going to be a really tiny little circle, nothing too big, and then just come back into those rocks. So a real kind of froggy pose here. So then bring the knees in close. We're going to come into something that you may have seen before or done before, which is kind of a bit like a pigeon pose, or essentially is a pigeon pose. And this is really going to get into the sides of the hips, and it can be quite intense. So just listen to your body. If it's not available to you right now, that's fine. Maybe just try the other two. So from here, come onto the hands and the knees. You're going to extend the left leg behind you and walk the right knee close behind the right hand. You're then going to try and pivot a little bit and bring the right knee out to the side and the left heel underneath kind of the hip. From here, you can walk that leg back a little bit and then lift the chest and the gaze and come onto the back of the left foot. So essentially you can pause here and you can walk the hands a little closer in, and you can pause here. You can also come down onto the forearms. That tends to intensify the stretch a little bit more. Gets kind of further into the side of the glute, the hip here. If you're in that lifted pose, again, what you can do is you can actually come up onto the toes and do some little rocks forwards and back. And that can sometimes just ease further into that stretch, especially if it feels quite uncomfortable. Just pause and hold it. you could lift up onto the toes and do tiny little pulses. So drop the left knee down, step that foot in a little closer, rotate that foot of the right leg back, and then come back onto all fours. We're going to swap onto the left side. So again, take yourself onto the toes of the right leg, walk the left knee in, turn the left ankle and foot round to come underneath the right hip. The knee comes out to the left side. And then again, you can work on releasing, coming onto the back of that foot, pausing here, lifting the gaze. You could lower down onto the forearms, increasing and intensifying that stretch through the left hip. Or you can come up onto the toes and onto the hands, lift that back knee and do some of those little tiny pulses. From here, we're going to come back, so pivot that back foot, or the front foot even, and leg, bring it in and step the other leg in. Just as a nice little finisher, bring the knees out to the sides, wide, nice and wide, kind of out to the sides of the yoga mat. Untuck the toes and bring the big toes together. Lower down the hips onto the heels and extend the arms out and come to an extended child's pose. Lower the forehead down and just pause and take 3 nice deep breaths in here. And then slowly lift the head. Start to walk the hands back in towards the hips and bring the knees together. And you are all done. So I really hope you enjoyed that little mini series to work into the hips. Now we tend to forget about the hips until they start to bother us. They're one of those areas. So it's really, really important you think about your hips. They do a lot, they have a lot of weight bearing on them, and they are super, super important joints. So make sure you take care of yours and do some of these little hip mobility exercises. Maybe throw them into your routine, maybe do them in the morning, and get the hips nice and prepared and ready for a day, or ready for some exercise or yoga. If you enjoyed this one, please let me know your feedback, and I thank you so much for joining me again for another one of these videos. Take care and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye guys.